Everyone. Welcome to another episode of From the Ground Up. I'm Karol Weyman, your host today from Outdoor Coffee Shop. And we are joined today by Todd Pieri, the president of AquaStar. And we're going to talk about why pricing stability has become a critical advantage for pool contractors. Todd, thank you for being here today.
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, it's been a little bit. We've talked in the past, and you're at so many trade shows, and it's always great to see your face. For those that are just joining us and they're new to From the Ground Up, can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about AquaStar?
Yes, I'm Todd Pieri, president of AquaStar, as you stated. I've been in the pool industry for 23 years now, where I actually started in distribution in 2003. And in 2010, I made the shift over to AquaStar Pool Products and started in a regional sales position with AquaStar, and then moved up as we grew, and now the president. AquaStar is a privately held company, founded also in 2003. We have one owner, and he is an engineer and tool maker. And he inked the company back in 2003 as he was looking for a niche business in the country where he could make American-made molded products, and found the pool industry. And they moved through 2003 to 2009, making return components and main drain covers and skimmers for the pool industry. And in 2009, the VGBA hit, and at the time, AquaStar had about 15 to 16 solutions for the commercial properties out there that were required to retrofit. And that was kind of AquaStar's hula hoop moment, and grew exponentially in those couple years. And the owner put all the money back into the company and wants to grow and wants to be one of the biggest players out there. And in the last 6 to 7 years, we've moved into equipment. So now we're encompassing essentially everything that helps you move water in and out of a pool in a efficient fashion, from pumps to filters to drain covers, return fittings, skimmers, and valves.
Yeah, that's so impressive. I was just looking at your website earlier today, and you have almost 3,500 products that you offer. And what I love about this is that you always put safety first. And I think that is remarkable in the industry that we're in, and being able to, really put the priority of safety and then making everything else work around that. So that's really impressive. So thank you again for joining us.
Absolutely.
So when we talk about pool builders and contractors today, what are the biggest concerns you're hearing over and over again?
It's definitely uncertainty. Uncertainty from a number of things, but from our perspective, from a manufacturer, and for what we represent and what we need to be accountable for, it's uncertainty with pricing, and the inconsistency that the industry's seen since 2003 with pricing has been, I believe, the toughest thing for the professionals to navigate.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, there's so much happening outside of just outdoors too in that realm as well. So,
Yeah, and
um,
the homeowner is really, they're educated now more than they've ever been. They can do more research than they've ever been able to do, and it's readily available. And it's so much more. There's so much more involved than just purchasing a pool and writing a check for it. And for manufacturers to make it inconsistent for contractors and professionals to perform their job I believe, is definitely a detriment to our industry.
right. Well, and this actually leads me to the next question where, with these concerns, how has that changed the way contractors are doing business? And are they having different conversations with homeowners than they were a few years ago?
Yeah, absolutely. They have to be educators now. They have to sell in a way that leads to ownership and not just an upfront price. And that ownership, there's a lot of different segments in what the conversation has to be relative to ownership, but first and foremost relative to what we're responsible for as manufacturers is consistency in pricing, and innovation, and training these homeowners and teaching these homeowners that this investment, this long-term investment, can be sustainable and can price itself into a position where you aren't looking at that upfront cost relative to the efficiencies of equipment. We have a responsibility to create efficient equipment that keeps pools clean, and so I think that's the biggest hurdle they have to get over. Then they have to figure out how to differentiate themselves from others, and I think talking on price is not a differentiator anymore. It doesn't play. So being an educator is the most important.
Yeah, and I think a little bit of information is kind of dangerous when homeowners or even some contractors, when they go online or they're looking at AI, they feel that they're an authority on being able to talk about something or hear something, and I think that's where the opportunity for the manufacturer to educate the contractor that's educating also the homeowner. I think there's just a line of responsibility that comes with that, and it sounds like AquaStars really takes that very seriously in how they adapt to things and how they handle their day to day, right? So I know that you guys have been really focused on pricing stability. And how does that commitment help contractors navigate some of those challenges and give them more confidence when they are quoting projects?
Yeah, I think it's important because I believe the quickest way to lose trust in a customer or professional is to make them feel like they paid more today than they would have yesterday, or less today than they did yesterday. It's so important that we stay away from inflating prices to give perceived promos the next day or the next week, but then also creating a consistent stability network of pricing for the contractors and professionals where they can be confident that they're going to be able to put a bid out, and then 2 months later that bid's still going to be good. We're very transparent on we make a price increase at the beginning of every year, and that is it. And our average price increase over the last 5 years has been 4% a year. So we've been able to really maintain pricing, and I think it's so important for us to create that consistency, to create that partnership, which lends itself to trust.
Touched on this a little bit with what does pricing stability actually mean for the contractor day to day, and why should they care about that? And you mentioned that within the contracts and being able to commit, a certain time period before the homeowners sign that nothing's going to change. Can you add to that?
Yeah, it's the predictability, right? It's when a professional is going and sitting in front of a homeowner, they can focus on selling the ownership of that project. They can focus on selling the education of that project, teaching them how to run the pool properly, or help them find a pool professional to help them run their pool once they're up and running, and not worry about what the manufacturer might do to them a couple months later by raising prices, and then for the contractor, they have to return, or the professional, they have to return to the homeowner and kind of tail between legs and say, hey, guess what? The manufacturer had a price increase, and then we start losing trust, not only with our professionals but then with the homeowners, right? The professional loses trust with them as well, and it's a domino effect that's not good for our industry at all.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. So pools can sometimes be viewed as a luxury purchase, especially when consumers are watching their budgets. How can contractors help homeowners see the long-term value instead of focusing solely on the upfront cost?
Yeah, we can teach them about their projects and teach them how to create the best and most efficient environment for them. We want the contractors focused on educating them about their pool and about their equipment. I mean, the elaborate projects that are being built today are beautiful and stunning, and the manufacturers, we need to catch up to that. We're essentially putting the same equipment pad on these projects that we did 5, 6, 10, 15 years ago. And then when we do get proper technology to put on these projects, now we need to run them properly. We need to take advantage of variable speed technology, of efficient filters, and essentially run these projects the way they should be run. And again, moving past that initial price and moving into ownership of this project, and how to run it, and how to make the best of it.
Right. When you think of the long term in that sense, you don't want to have to be replacing things because it costs a lot more money to replace something later if they haven't really done the homework and are putting things, as a priority for some of the equipment that they're putting in for sure.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. So what really ties into you have a run your freaking pump campaign. What inspired that message? I see that. And, why was it important enough to build a whole campaign around this?
Yeah, it's the interaction. We interact with a lot of professionals on the ground level, and we're finding that these professionals aren't taking advantage of the variable speed technology that's out there. We've had it for 15 years now, and in some cases, rightfully so. We haven't given the industry hasn't given them the greatest filter to actually use the pump properly, and we've come out with that, and have one that will allow you to run your pump the way it should be run. But we kept running into professionals that were treating this new variable speed technology as a single speed pump, which is archaic. It's 15 years old and it's expensive. And that was the cumbersome part of pools. We would run variable speed pumps for 8 hours a day, and it would be one of the most energy suck items in the house, more so than dishwashers and washing machines, and even air conditioning at some point, at some points. But the technology that we have today in variable speed pumps and these permanent magnet motors, they want to run. They want to be like airplanes. Airplanes want to be in the air. That's where they're most comfortable. And variable speed pumps with permanent magnet motors, they want to run. They work best and they're happiest when they're running. So if you take, for instance, when water is not running in your pool, if you only run it for 8 hours a day, we're looking at 14 hours a day, or 16 hours a day, where the pool is not running. It's trying to turn into a pond. It's literally trying to turn into a pond, grow algae, and whatever else you can imagine growing in a pond. But when we're moving water, it's more like a stream that you walk up to at a river, and it's never stopped, and it's clear as can be. We need to move water. When we're moving water, it's better for the system. It's healthier for the water, less chemical use, and just a overall better environment for the homeowners. And we can run these pumps so much lower and at a lower watt consumption that it actually costs less to run your pool at a much lower speed 20 hours a day than at the top end speed for 8 hours a day.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it actually, when I think about it, my dad always used to say highway miles are the easiest miles you're going to have because the stop and go changes all the mechanics. Or if you're just sitting, your car is never going to run efficiently. And I think the same thing applies to pumps because, what you're saying regarding that is, to have a healthy pool, you have to keep running it. And, you said the lower speeds are so variable speeds. How does, is there a way to program it so that how, throughout the day with your equipment that you want it at a certain speed so it's consistent? Or do you have to monitor? How do you monitor that, I guess, is my question.
Yeah, it is a process for the setup. You could absolutely, it's super easy to program variable speed pumps, but every pool is its own thumbprint. So what we want to try to do for every pool is at that low end speed that we want to run the majority of the day, it's real simple. We set that pump at the speed that we'd like to run it at, which is low speed, very efficient, and less energy consumption. And this simply makes sure that the water is moving through your skimmer over your weir door. Right, so we'll dial that pump all the way down to make sure, so we're getting water moving over that weir door. And as long as we're moving water over that weir door, that skimmer will skim. And that skimmer will only skim when we're moving water. And that's the most important thing for a pool, because when debris hits the pool, it takes a substantial amount of time for it to sink. Well, if your pump's off for 16 hours a day, it's more than likely going to sink. But if we're running that pump for 20, 22, 24 hours a day, it's more than likely not going to sink. So we're actually going to skim that off the top. So setting that low end speed to run the majority of the time that the pump is on to get over that water, get over that weir door is the most important. And then if you have a suction side cleaner, or at least one time a day, ramp that pump up for maybe an hour, run it at 25, 2600 RPM, and that'll help stir the pool up and get those chemicals filtrated, circulated around that pool, and then ramp that and do that typically at the warmest time of the day when the sun's at its highest point, and then pull that speed back down after that hour or two that you've turned it over, and then run it consistently again for the rest of the day.
So does the pool cover have to be off when that happens, or when you're doing a pump, can the pool cover be closed?
Absolutely. The pool
Okay.
cover can absolutely be closed. Yeah, we're just simply
Okay.
fluctuating speeds with that pump when need be. But the majority of the time, we're running at that low end speed with less watt consumption. I run my pool 22 hours a day, and I live in Southern California. And the majority of that time, the watt consumption is 230 watts.
Wow.
That's a
Okay.
little more than 2 light bulbs, right? So it's not expensive.
No, that's great. And then they can focus on other things that can be more expensive, like some of the other, fun parts of the pool, right? So that's good to know. So you talk a lot about helping pool owners get more from equipment. What are some of the most common mistakes people make with their pump? You had mentioned the variable speeds and not running at all, but is there anything else that you want to add to that? And what kind of impact does that have on performance and operating costs?
Yeah, I think that education, as we talked about for the professionals, is the most important. When you can walk into a homeowner and educate them, whether it's a retrofit or new construction, that we have new technology, we're going to run these things exponentially longer, we're going to move water, it's going to be quieter, and we're actually going to create a much healthier environment for you. And it really is that basic, just to move water. That's why the tagline for the campaign is so simple: run your freaking pump, right? And that's the most important thing, because I think what homeowners don't understand is when they see algae spurs pop up, or they have debris in the bottom of the pool, they don't understand why. They don't understand why this is happening, and they don't know how to fix it. So just educating these professionals and contractors that go in, understanding the equipment that they're putting in, and then educate the homeowner on that. And then again, educating them for the ownership of that pool and not just for that initial price tag.
Yeah, and is it quieter then too? Like if you're not running at higher speed, and is there kind of I hear, like, if everyone's in the pool, does that affect anything? Can you hear the pump if it's running at a higher speed? And then
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the other cumbersome parts of pools, and treating these variable speed pumps like single speed pumps sometimes is running it at the top end. Inherently, the pump is going to be louder just running it higher. But also, what really creates a lot of noise is when you run a 3 horsepower pump at a top end speed, and maybe you only have 2-inch plumbing, it's struggling to get water. So when it struggles to get water, it's going to be louder. So inherently, it's going to be louder. So if you're running your pump as a single speed at 3,400 RPM, when the sun's up, that's typically when we're swimming, you're going to hear it. When you're running the pump at a very low speed at that 14, 15, 1,600 RPM, and for the majority of the day, you're never going to hear the pump when you're in the pool. They're super quiet, especially an AquaStar pump.
I think my neighbors run it really high, actually, and I'm going to mention this to them because this is going to be a game changer, because I feel like we're always yelling over each other, but that could be a
Yeah.
whole different issue that we're having. So I
Yeah.
don't know. But
Yeah.
so for contractors listening today, where do you see the biggest opportunity to stand out and grow their business in this market?
Again, going back to the education part, educate them, and also get to the manufacturers and learn about the new technology that's out there. We will certainly continue to sanitize pools the way we've always done with chlorine, but there are some secondary oxidizers and sanitizers out there that you can apply to your projects that will allow you to keep your sanitation levels lower, which inherently creates a much better application for the homeowners and a much better bathing experience. So get yourself educated on product and then take that education right to the homeowner and teach them again that the ownership of this pool isn't going to be expensive in the long run. So let's not look at the upfront price. Let's look at the long-term ownership of this pool and then teach them how they're going to be able to own this pool, run it in a proper way, get them the proper professionals to help them run it in the proper way, and have the best experience possible. We need happy homeowners, happy pool owners in our industry to grow this industry. The worst thing we can do is train these professionals or not train them to run these projects in the proper way and create a homeowner that's frustrated with their pool's dirty or it's expensive. We want homeowners talking about their pool being clean and being less expensive to run and being a great experience. Everyone loves coming over because we have a pool. That's what we want.
Absolutely. I think it's great to give some expectations and accountability to the homeowners so that they do feel that ownership. And that's exactly what you're talking about. So I think that's definitely really important. So if you could leave builders and service professionals with one piece of advice as they look ahead to the rest of the year, what would it be?
Again, the education part, be consistent with your projects, be consistent with your homeowners, be transparent with your homeowners. That's what we're trying to do at AquaStar. We're trying to create a consistent environment for these professionals to shop with and trust. I think trust is the biggest thing in any relationship. And if you're a contractor or a professional and you're tied into that homeowner with whether it's a retrofit project or servicing their pool or building them a project, you've got to earn their trust. And the best way to earn their trust is to educate them and understand the product that you're putting in and help them pass the bells and whistles on the pool, because we don't want to load the pool up with a bunch of bells and whistles and then it'd be super cumbersome for them to run and not understand how to run it. So developing that trust is the most important thing.
Could agree more. That's great advice. And so if someone wants to get a hold of any AquaStar products or be able to, where can they find your products?
Yeah, so we're in all distribution outlets, so the professionals can find us in any distribution outlet. And then if you want to do any research on our product or contact anyone on our team, you can go to aquastarpoolproducts.com and research our products, and then research a direct rep in your area and contact them, and we're happy to help and happy to educate.
Yeah, and you can also find, we have on outdoorcoffeeshop.com, we have AquaStar's directory that has great information and leads you back to their website and has great video and product information on there as well. I know you guys are in a lot of trade shows. I'm not putting you on the spot, but do you know what trade shows you're going to this coming year so professionals can see you?
Yeah, well, our team is growing fast, so we will be hitting most of the trade shows this year. We'll certainly be at the International this year, Pool and Spa Show, which is in New Orleans. We'll be at the Atlantic City Show, which is notoriously in Atlantic City. Your Southeast Show, your Southwest Show, your Western Pool and Spa Show, and your Everything Under the Sun Show, and that bleeds into the beginning of 2027 as well. But yeah, we'll be at all the big trade shows, so come see us.
Yeah, and actually we're going to also be at the international show, so we hope everyone stops by. We have a live sound stage, and AquaStar is always welcome to have an interview, and you can bring any contractors or anyone you want to come by. We'd love to be able to interview you guys. Thank you so much for educating us on the importance of really creating the stability for pricing. I know that you guys are an American company, and it helps not having to ship things so often. There's an ability to have some standardizations and only have price increases once a year, and that's really impressive. And I think that's important to note for sure. So
absolutely,
yeah.
I appreciate you having me. This is always a good time. I love it.
Yeah, thank you so much. And until next time, I hope you guys enjoy the day. Thanks for joining us on From the Ground Up.